Elaine, hey, congratulations on your new documentary, Arrest the Midwife.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And also, more of a congratulations is being showcased at South by Southwest this year, one of the most prestigious film festivals around the world. How do you feel about that?
We are super excited that it's premiering at South by. We were thrilled to hear the news, and we think that like just the location is the perfect showcase for this film.
Most excellent. So let's start out with the easy question. What actually sparked you to make this documentary in the first place with Arrest the Midwife?
I mean, really, the this film came out of my personal experience of having children. When my wife and I decided to have kids, we kind of followed the traditional medical route, and nothing about it felt right to us. It just felt very impersonal and detached. And a friend of ours suggested we chat to a midwife. And just that really started our journey on with midwifery care. Everything about it felt completely different. It just felt personal. She listened to us. She understood what we were going through. And so that really was kind of the impetus for the film. What happened was when we were thinking about having a second child, we went back to the same midwifery practice, which was attached to a hospital.
Mhm.
And we found that despite having an extremely long waiting list, it had been shut down. And I was curious to know why. I was like, this is such a great model of care. Why would you shut down a midwifery practice attached to a hospital? And it was then that I started to dig a little deeper and kind of found out about the systemic pressure of medicine and really the business of medicine against midwifery. Unfortunately, natural childbirth is not the most profitable um, part of medicine. And so it doesn't behoove hospitals to have these midwifery units. And I think that that is really denying women a standard of care that they deserve.
That's interesting. So it all started off this way. Um, so in this hospital that you experienced, was that in New York or Pennsylvania or elsewhere?
That was in New York City. And it's surprising that New York City, compared to other parts of the country, your options of having a child or the way to have a child are very limited. In other parts of the country, there are birth centers. Midwives are legal and able to practice, and New York is extremely restrictive in terms of maternity care.
Now, for the subjects of your film, how did you actually discover them?
Thinking, and I had friends, there are some that work in hospitals. Just it's very restrictive. Their practice, even where they are allowed to practice, is very restrictive. And so I really got interested in this topic, and I didn't want to do like an essay. I really felt like it needed a film, but I didn't want to do an essay film. And so I started just digging and researching, and I stumbled across the story of Elizabeth Catlin, who had been arrested in upstate New York. And I contacted her and, we chatted, we had a great conversation. And I was like, yeah, this is going to get thrown out of court. This is not going to go anywhere. This is crazy. Like, you are serving an area where there are very limited options. You're serving a community that needs you. How is anyone going to prosecute you? Like, this is never going to get by the grand jury. And so I was like, let's see what happens. And she called me, it was just before Christmas, and she was like, they've indicted me of 95 felony counts. And I
Hmm.
was like, packed my bags, took a team up and started filming.
95 felony counts seems very absurd. A lot of criminals don't even get that, and they've done a whole lot worse.
No, it's absolute absurdity. Absolute absurdity. To charge a midwife with 95 felony charges was crazy. Um, yeah. And, subsequently, um, those 95 charges were diminished very rapidly as the film progressed.
Now, how did you convince Liz to participate into your documentary, or did she felt like this needed to be told?
No, I mean, I feel like Liz really felt like the story needed to be told. She, I mean, she was really caught in the crosshairs. Um, she maintains, she doesn't feel like she's done anything wrong. She didn't do anything wrong. She feels passionate about serving this community. She was suspicious in the beginning, like, who are you and why do you want to tell my story? But I feel like with Liz, as with many of the other members of the community that I worked with, I think that we immediately just bonded over our shared values around childbirth. And so that was how we connected. I am a strong believer in the midwifery model of care. And, once she understood that about where I was coming from, I think it was easy for her to say, yeah, let's go ahead and start filming. And, it wasn't like we just jumped into filming. I met with the family first. We had a sit down before I took any crew up. And yeah, we just developed a trust that way.
Now, with the other midwives, did you find them through Liz, through her connections too?
Yeah, and I had no idea that that story was going to unfold in the way that it did. So when we started filming, it was about Elizabeth Catlin, a midwife in upstate New York who had been arrested. Little did we know that this was going to roll out the way it rolled out. And then Melissa was arrested, and then Lisa was arrested.
Now, was it a tough production trying to follow the different arrests following Liz in this case?
Um, in terms of like just
Trying to
like
follow the other stories, yes.
I think what was the most difficult was weaving this all together in the edit. I mean, in terms of narrative storytelling, you, as much as I don't agree with what happened in Upstate, it was like we literally were watching a witch hunt play out. And I think that it really brought the story to life. So I think in terms of a narrative perspective, it gave us the perfect arc. So in some ways it made it easier. And it wasn't like they were all concurrent. It really was this, rollover, Liz and then Melissa and then Lisa.
Well, you certainly had the camera on at the right time for certain with all of
No, I
this.
mean, it was very unexpected. In terms of how the story played out, I mean, I was shocked every time a new developed. I was like, what? They did what? Who? Like, it was very surprising at every step of the way.
I also found your film fascinating because it actually showcased the desire for midwifery amongst the Mennonite community. Could you talk more about that? Because it seems like the midwives that the subjects that you actually have serve that community very, very well.
They serve that community very well. And I think that, the Mennonites believe in home birth. They want their babies at home. Um, they don't believe that birth is a medical condition. And I think that the one thing that we have to learn from this community is just in terms of how we've over medicalized birth. I am very grateful that medicine is there when we need it. And in the birth setting as well. Not everyone should be having a home birth. And the Mennonites believe that as well. They are not like, I'm going to birth my baby at home at any cost. If they require medical intervention, they will go to the hospital. And I think that's a very good model. I also think in terms of midwifery care, not everyone wants to have a home birth, and that's not what the film is advocating. I think what we are advocating is that every woman deserves the same standard of care as the midwifery model delivers, which is, your midwife knows you, you are not gaslit, you are empowered, and so all of those things come to the table.
Now, of course, the stereotypes of Mennonites of people think that they're backwards and anti-technology. But in this case, could you talk about going into trying to balance that privacy of filming, some of these births or some of these practices with your camera in the room?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they were very open to allowing me into the room because I think it was an extension of their advocacy. Um, so it's not that everyone in the community was comfortable with allowing cameras into the room. So I do feel like it was a self-selecting group. Um, and yeah, I definitely think they feel so passionately about this issue that they wanted to be involved in the film.
Now, of course, the ending of your documentary, I want to say it's not a great ending, but it's not a bad ending either. Where you is this sort of something that it's going to be a continuing battle at this point?
Well, I really hope that the film at this point is going to contribute to just getting the word out and, helping further midwifery care in the United States. We don't have a excellent maternity care model here. In fact, we spend more than any country in the developed world, and we have the worst outcomes. And so I feel like midwifery is the solution. To turning those numbers around.
Most excellent. Well, let me wrap it up with one last question. As audiences at South by Southwest will have a chance to watch it, and hopefully more audiences down at the road at more film festivals or other avenues, what is the one most important take you hope they walk away with after watching your film, Arrest the Midwife?
Well, I feel like in the United States at the moment, there's an erosion of reproductive rights. And I feel like I hope that people walk away from this film. Well, let me back up on that actually. I feel like the Mennonite community, I think the most surprising thing in this film is watching the Mennonite community break from tradition to become political activists and advocate for change. And I think in this country right now, there's a need for civic engagement on a number of levels, including reproductive rights. So I hope that people walk away from this film thinking, if they can do it, I can do it too.
Well said, Elaine. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us about your documentary, Arrest the Midwife. I hope you travel to Texas to showcase it and enjoy South by Southwest. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.